candidate Zhang Luhuang won a special election and flipped a previously Democratic-held seat to GOP. So this is a 73% Democratic district that Biden won by 14 points 1 year ago. So it turns out that the Hispanic Latino voters contributed quite a lot to the red wave, which swept beyond Virginia. So what does that mean? I sat down with Reverend Samuel Rodriguez. He's the president of National Hispanic Christian Leadership Conference, and he shared his insights with us. So a brief introduction of Reverend Samuel Rodriguez. And he's an evangelical American Christian leader born to Puerto Rican parents in the United States. He's a pastor, movie producer, author, civil rights activist, and a television personality. He founded the National Hispanic Christian Leadership Conference in the year of 2000, which is recognized as the largest Hispanic evangelical Christian organization in the world, with over 40,000 Latino evangelical churches as members. He was an advisor to President Bush and later also served in an advisory capacity for President Obama and Trump. Reverend Rodriguez has been a featured speaker in White House and the congressional meetings. So let's dive in. Reverend, welcome to our show.
Thank you for having me.
Could you just let our audience know a little bit more about your organization?
Yeah, the National Hispanic Christian Leadership Conference is the National Hispanic Evangelical Association, over 42,000 member churches in the U.S., with chapters outside of the U.S. from Argentina all the way up to Spain. So we represent the Hispanic Latino evangelical community. We're committed to three primary values: life, religious liberty, and biblical justice. Our mission statement is to reconcile Billy Graham's message of salvation exclusively to the person of Jesus Christ with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s March for Justice. So we call it the Lamb's Agenda. We are not a political group, but we do have political influence and presence.
So, Reverend Rodriguez, people saw the red wave across the nation during this year's election. What's your take from the perspective of Hispanic Latino community?
What we have seen is an incredible shift in the electoral priorities. Let me explain. We have seen in the Hispanic Latino community a movement towards family and faith values. Latinos are not automatic Democrats. The African American community is primarily 87 to 88% automatically a constituency of the Democratic Party. So Black people in America are going to vote Democrat 88% of the time. It used to be 90%. That number is now decreasing to 88%. Latinos are not that sort of monolithic voting constituents. Latinos are very fluid. Latinos voted for Obama in 2008, and the same Latinos that have voted for Obama in 2008 supported Donald Trump in 2016. So we are a very fluid community. We're not married to one political party. We're married to an agenda, to values, and values trump a party. So what we saw in Virginia and San Antonio, in Virginia, 55% of Hispanics supported Glenn Youngkin. So they supported the Republican candidate because of his commitment to schooling and parental empowerment, because of his commitment to pro-life, religious liberty, no to socialism, and so forth. So that commitment likewise resonated in San Antonio, where in a 73% Democratic district, a Republican individual was voted into the Texas legislative chamber. So it speaks to the emergence of the Hispanic Latino community as a very viable community, but more yet, the most independent demographic in the American electorate. We are the vaccine. We are the vaccine against communism, socialism, against big government, against totalitarianism. The Latino community is the firewall against secular totalitarianism.
It's very interesting when you mentioned the Latino community is the firewall to the socialism. So would you please explain to us a little bit more about the Latino community's understanding or the experience of the socialism and why you oppose it?
Right, it's both experience and understanding. Experience always provides and leads us to understanding. Let's not forget the Cuba experiment with Fidel Castro. We saw what took place in Nicaragua back in the 1980s and even the 1990s, and even trying to re-emerge again, Bolivia. But of course, we have the most modern day example in Latin America, Venezuela. We saw how Hugo Chavez and Nicolás Maduro were successful in literally annihilating one of the most productive, richest nations in the Western Hemisphere. Prior to Chavez and Maduro, Venezuela was the jewel of Latin America. It had the highest gross domestic product and GNP, the gross national product, archaic terms. Venezuela was the richest country in Latin America. Coming Chavez and Maduro, they annihilated through socialism and communism. Government took over private property. Government took over the media. Government took over commerce. Government took over trade. Government took over every educational edifice and institution, the universities, the private schools. Government became God in Venezuela. What do we have now? We have people starving, literally dying from starvation in Venezuela. This is what happens when we replace the order. And the order is this. The God-ordained order is God over man, man over government. Let me repeat that. The God-ordained system for the continuation of human civilization is God over man, man over government. Communism says it's government over man, and there is no God. And that's why Venezuela is a failed experiment. That's why communism has failed everywhere it has been exercised in its orthodoxy around the world. And that's why Latinos have this cognizant ability to discern and discriminate accordingly. And now in America, Latinos are the firewall. We are the vaccine against the virus of socialism and communism.
So why are you, what kind of similarity you see what's going on in the United States makes you feel that, you wanted to stop the socialism here?
Listen, the people that are advancing socialism and communism in America either have a very limited cognitive bandwidth, which means they are intellectually deficient in looking at the historical outcomes of communist regimes around the world, or they have an agenda that is ideologically antithetical to the American experiment. They have an agenda that is antithetical and counterintuitive to our Judeo-Christian value system and even to the American experiment, to the values of our founding fathers. So they're driven by an ideology that is anti-American, anti-Christian, anti-personal freedom, anti-individuality. It is anti-absolutely everything that you and I hold near and dear. So that's the reality. And one of the vestiges, one of the manifestations of this is this perpetual objective of dividing us. That's why critical race theory was, in essence, what stood defeated. CRT stood defeated this past election in Virginia because it is an extension of a communist, socialist, perpetual, divisive discourse with the objective of dividing us in perpetuity and placing us in silos so government can become the solution. So here we are. Again, I am excited and elated that Latinos in partnership with other communities are emerging as this amazing deterrent to the advancement of a socialist, communist, CRT, ideologically driven agenda that is counterintuitive to our American experience, and I would argue to our Judeo-Christian value system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, talking about critical race theory, after this election, a lot of the Democrats are saying, oh no, it's not, CRT is not taught. Well, how do you think?
Untrue. That's a lie. There's no other way for it. That's a lie. It's been proven. Matter of fact, CRT is taught across the board in school districts all across America. CRT is now in the private sector, AT&T recently started a program where they are teaching their executives that white people are naturally born oppressors. There is now an investment company in New York City where for you to hire a white person, you have to ask permission. This is racism. CRT is racist. I'm against all vestiges of racism. Martin Luther King Jr. is one of my greatest heroes of all time. One of my greatest heroes. I've had the privilege of speaking at Ebenezer Baptist Church on multiple occasions. So I repudiate every vestige of racism. I don't care where it comes from, what color it may hide itself under. I repudiate every vestige of racism. I believe every race is beautiful. I believe black is beautiful, white is beautiful, brown is beautiful, Asian is beautiful. I believe every race is beautiful. And the moment we hear that if you're born a certain race, you're an oppressor, meaning white people are automatically oppressors, and that blacks are automatic victims, that's just diabolical. Blacks are not victims. Blacks are beautifully created in the image of God, and they are more than conquerors through Christ. And they have the power and the ability to change the world around them because they are beautifully made, knitted together in their mother's wombs by our mighty Creator. So the idea that they are perpetual victims is the objective of a bunch of people that want to continue to hold individuals and races in captivity and perpetuity. It's an agenda. It's about politics and power. If I can convince you you're a victim, I can control you. And it's all about control and power.
Let me just share with you a very recent case of cancel culture related to CRT, and let me know what you think. It happened actually in our community here in the San Francisco Bay Area. It's about an Asian American elected official, Miss Liang Chao, who is currently vice mayor of the city of Cupertino near Silicon Valley. She made some comments about the Chinese Exclusion Act in a private parents group, saying that this Chinese Exclusion Act cannot be viewed solely through the lenses of a racist. Then her conversation was taken out of context and triggered fierce attacks from various people, including from some state legislators in the Democratic Party, saying that Ms. Chao defends a Chinese Exclusion Act and demanded her to apologize. So, Reverend Rodriguez, how do you view this?
My Asian brothers and sisters, if my Chinese brothers and sisters in the Bay Area and across America, if Chinese and Latinos and Hispanics partner together and push back against CRT, and by the way, the vast majority of African Americans don't embrace CRT. There's a difference between being truthful as it pertains to America's history, including the years of slavery, the abolitionist movement, what took place. We have to teach all of history, right? That's not CRT. I was a history teacher for 5 years. That's not CRT. That's just legitimate American history. We should teach all of it, the good, the bad, and the ugly, all of it. But the moment we teach our students that a certain race is automatically born racist, that's what CRT teaches, that white people are automatically racist and they are oppressors, that blacks are automatic victims, that is not right. And that America is a terrible nation and that we cannot be redeemed. How in the world can we succeed as a nation if we're teaching our children that this nation is cursed, is doomed? It takes away all optimism. It takes away every single credible opportunity for us to empower our children to do better things and achieve greater heights. It just absolutely makes no sense. And it's evil. That's why CRT really has this underlying, undergirded ideology of perpetual victimization and racist. So if Asians and Latinos come together, we can do something. But it requires all of us to stand together and not permit us to be silenced. Let me lay it out for you as I conclude here. Today's complacency is tomorrow's captivity. We are what we tolerate. There is no such thing as comfortable Christianity. And truth must never be sacrificed on the altar of political or cultural expediency. We must speak up.
And right now, it seems people cannot have different opinions versus, before, for America to be such a great country, people would hold, the rights for people who don't agree with them. So what do you think?
And no, of course, and that's why we have to speak up. We can't let the mob, the cancel culture, wokeism, silence our freedoms. No, we cannot. I'm going to tell you what died during COVID. In addition to tragically over 700,000 Americans who passed away, common sense, logic, and reason have died during COVID. To a great degree, religious liberty and freedom of speech. And what we need to do is push back. And this is the pushback.
So for people to understand the Hispanic or Latino community, it seems, people originating from Cuba or Venezuela, they hold more conservative values. How about the Hispanics from Mexico, those type of country?
Mexicans actually have one of the strongest, most conservative family value ethos that you could imagine. Mexicans are actually one of the most conservative groups. One of the most liberal groups are Puerto Ricans. People from Puerto Rico, better yet, seem to be, even Christian Puerto Ricans, seem to be stronger committed to a liberal ideology, a Democratic Party. And that is more historically because of their emergence out of Puerto Rico, what happened there with Luis Muñoz Marin, the governor of Puerto Rico, and their migration to New York City. And the politics of New York impacted Puerto Rican voters. I am of Puerto Rican descent.
Yeah.
So
why you are different?
I know the community very well. But no, Mexicans are more conservative than Puerto Ricans by far. And it's the largest group. 73% of all Latinos are of Mexican descent. So I do see great hope at the end of the day. And I do see a great coalition emerging of Asians and Latinos and African Americans that will protect the values of our founding fathers of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But more importantly, they will advance our Judeo-Christian value system and advancing the kingdom of heaven here on earth and here in America.
Yeah. So lastly, do you think the new immigrants are more easier to go with the Democrat Party, or it doesn't matter?
Inevitably, because of faith, because of spirituality, because of the advancement of the gospel of Jesus in the Latino community, inevitably, Latinos become very strong pro-life. We're the strongest pro-life community in America. We're very pro-religious liberty, and we're committed to biblical justice. And now, as the election in Florida in 2020 proved, and Texas, now we are the most powerful, vibrant group against socialism and communism. So let not your heart be troubled. The best days are still before us.
All right. Thank you, Reverend, for sharing with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Many blessings.
All right. So that's Reverend Samuel Rodriguez. And I read some of your comments about how does he think about the flood of immigration at the border. Due to my limited time when we had this interview, I didn't get the chance to ask Reverend Rodriguez. So, I think we touched upon some of it, and I would make sure that I will ask him this question for when we have the next opportunity to interview him again. So, how do you think? Actually, that reminds me of my previous interview with Professor Alicia Kempe. If you are, a longtime viewer of our channel, I interviewed her oftentimes previously. She's a professor at the Johns Hopkins University. She's an expert in American history and also East Asian culture and affairs. So she shared with me something like she believes that actually a lot of the new immigrants, including the Hispanic and Chinese or Asian Americans, maybe for some of them in the beginning, when they just first came to this country, they would be inclined to vote Democrat, but after they really can capture the principles, the main founding principles of the United States, many of them actually would just switch, because just as the Reverend Rodriguez said, these also, and according to what I understand from the Asian community, a lot of people, they are not so much attached to the partisanship. They are more focused on the issues, the principles, the families, just coincidentally for example, the Chinese Americans, they are more, their values are more close to the conservative values. So that's a fact. That's not partisan. So that's just from what I know. And but of course, I think on the other hand, it's very important to have the new immigrants to understand, to get educated about the founding principles of the United States, the traditions, the cultures, so that they can more quickly adapt to realize actually their values are closer to the founding principles. That's my personal experience in California. Actually, we know that the first generation of Chinese or Asian Americans who are born here, whose parents were maybe from China or Taiwan or Singapore, but because of their first generation are born here in the United States, and then they get education here. So many of them turn out to be closer to the Democratic Party. But as you notice, like in the 2016 and 2020 presidential election, a lot of, especially the Chinese Americans, they voted for GOP. It is because they just truly find that their values are closer to the Republican Party. It's not that they necessarily really, being partisan. So I think just like Reverend Rodriguez said, people like us are the vaccine against the socialism, communism, because we've been through that. We lived under the socialism, communist regime. We know how disaster it is, how, even just evil it is, it can bring to people's life. So we are the vaccine, we are the firewall against totalitarianism and communism. So and I have to also agree with a lot of you. Reverend Rodriguez said is very true. All right, so hope you enjoyed this interview. Recently, Wei has a lot of other issues to deal with, and so our show tends to be shorter, but I hope still, it brings you valuable information that you can enjoy. And if you like the interview, please share with your friends, and we'd appreciate that. So I went to Kansas City during the weekend to cover the Global COVID Summit, which maybe some of you watched the live streaming on Safe Chat. If you haven't, maybe you can take the time to watch the streaming. There's a lot of information, and one thing is that we heard the speech from Limon Yan, the biologist from China. Actually, she escaped Hong Kong to come to this country because she, claims that she knows how the WHO and the CCP colluded together to lie on the origin of the COVID-19. The common CCP virus. And the one thing she shared is that, really we need two things to combat the CCP, which brought such a disaster to the whole country, not only to China, to the United States, but the whole world. So she mentioned that one is the truth, the other is the courage. We need to know the truth and also have to have the courage to step out, to speak out, and to go against it. So I will share with you more about my interviews with Dr. Yan and the other doctors. So please stay tuned with our Safe Chat channel. I believe most of those interviews, we have to just broadcast it on Safe Chat. All right. Thank you so much for being with me tonight, and take care. See you next time. Bye-bye.